Come on, I'm broke, baby. I ain't got no money.
Bullshit. I see you shining, nigga. I can smell a motherfucker with money. Even Ray Charles can see you got money.
We are here. We are here. Welcome back. It's your boy, the coach, and welcome back to the Coaches Huddle where the field meets family. And don't say I got money problems again, Brock Purdy, because you don't. I'm here with my man, 10 grand, Tom Jensen. This is our installment of the Faithful Review. And they just took our little show. The 49ers just took our little show, balled it up, and threw it out the window and said, hey, we got some news for you.
Yeah.
We're going to extend Brock Purdy. Tom, before we get into it, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Getting through the day, was going to sit here and prepare to basically talk about the schedule, you know, the ups and downs, who we may face, you know, regular news.
And then, boom.
And then there was Brock. Let's get to it. This is what I love about doing our show. We get to take our time, all right? We don't got to run down and catch them. We can walk down and get them all. If you know the phrase, you understand what I'm talking to. But my biggest thing right now is Brock Purdy just signed a 5-year extension worth $265 million overall, $180 million in overall guarantees, $165 million to be allocated within the first 3 years of the deal. Right on the outset, it puts Brock at $52 million a year. All right. And in the first 3 years, it leaves him at about $55 million. What say you? Before we start chopping this thing down, initial reactions, go.
He doesn't deserve to get paid that much, but it's the market. And so this is the reality we live in. This is what the Niners had to do. I didn't see Purdy signing for less than around 52, 53. So I think they made a good deal, and we'll have to see in terms of the overall structure, the signing bonus, et cetera. We'll see. But this is essentially the deal that had to get done to get Purdy signed. And there's a lot of problems with it, but it is what it is. It's the market forces your hand on this.
Yeah. For me, he got Tua money, right? Let's just go ahead and put it out.
Basically,
he got the Tua deal. $52 million a year, 55 in the on-start. There's one thing that I like about it. Let's just talk about what I like about the deal first.
Okay.
Right. We understand that we're going to talk about what we don't like about it, all the pitfalls. We get all that. But let's talk about what we liked about the deal. Number one, we finally got a deal done in May.
Yeah.
We did not have to wait. This matters. All right. Signing him
no doubt.
This stage of the offseason, the Niners are finally understanding. They get it. And I love the fact that we didn't draw this out. We truly get to have an offseason now, right? I believe that some of the, hanging chads out there right now, or, what's going to happen with Trent Williams. We just signed a new kicker. But for the most part, it feels good to be back to the business of football, right? Like, Brock got signed. So that's number one that I like. Two, I like the fact that they front-loaded the deal. I like that. $55 million a year is not going to be $55 million in 3 years. All right. The quarterback market it's expanding. All right. It's the universe. It's always expanding. Okay. And because of that, what I love about the deal is that we kind of future fitted the deal to, hey, we're going to go a little more now, understanding that this is going to fall into itself nicely as time goes on, right? So I like that. And on top of it is, for as much as the Niners say that they love Brock, right? They didn't break any deals with him. They didn't not break any deals, but they didn't break any records with him, right? They weren't trying to push themselves out to make the most out of the quarterback market. He didn't reset anything. He got paid as kind of like, I feel like Brock is the leader of the new one. You know how there's first tier, second tier, third tier. I think that this deal is the new school 1.5 tier deal, right? Like,
yeah, in that vicinity.
better than a game manager, but not elite.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
so that's where it should fall.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. In terms of what I like that after the third year, after his third season, there's basically an out. That it's 165 million guaranteed, 181 million guaranteed overall. So after the third year, there's only 16 million guaranteed. So in 2028, after that season is over, that's the parachute year. That's when they can say, okay, we're going to move on from Kyle, John, and Brock. If they don't have a ring by 2028, we can go out, hire a new GM, hire a new coach, and bring in a new quarterback. I like that flexibility. It's putting accountability and a clock on Shanahan, Lynch, and Purdy. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
181 million guaranteed is also a win for the Niners. I think that probably what they did was they said, okay, we'll give you 53 AAV, but we'll also pay you less in guaranteed money. So I think that was the give and take. It was that 53 for Brock, 181 for the Yorks. And that's less than what Trevor Lawrence got. He had 200 million guaranteed. Purdy's at 181. So there are some things that are helping out in terms of just the give and take, that there's some kind of compromise was struck, and we'll have to see the final details on everything. But I love that there's an out. I love that there's a way for them to transition out of this group, and it fits with what you've always said all along. Brock is a bridge, and this commits to that kind of a mindset, is that, okay, we're going to give you a 3-year bridge, and we're going to use all of you and give you the test case and say, get it done or get out. So they've got until 2028, and then we'll see.
I love it. The 181 million guaranteed is more than Goff, Hurts, or Tua. It's just under Lamar and Justin Herbert, what they got. I love it because, you know, I think that some of the things that have been about some of the how can I say, conversation points that have been out there about Brock, about who he's better than, who he's not better than. I think that this deal kind of puts him right at where he belongs, right? In certain aspects, you look at what Brock has done over the course of his career summary. He's 23-13 as a starter, led the NFL in touchdown percentage, yards per attempt, and passer rating, and net yards in 2023. I mean, that was the year that got him paid, in my opinion.
No doubt. No question.
We look
Without
at
that year, he doesn't get this at all. They just say, okay, we're going to try Mac Jones and see.
He's gotten paid now. So it's time to start talking about Brock like he's a big boy now. He got his money. So all of that Mr. Irrelevant stuff, that anybody who's still, this is one thing that I also would like to say. Sometimes people like to say things without saying things, right? Even the trajectory of how they speak about Brock says something, right? Anybody at this stage of the game who is still talking about Brock from a rags to riches standpoint of, well, why would you pay the Mr. Irrelevant quarterback that? No. We're past that.
Yeah.
Brock is
that's ancient history.
Thank you, Tom. That is ancient history. We're looking at what Brock has done to gain this money. All right. Big playoff resume. All right. This is a guy that came in 5-0 as a rookie. All right. Came in at 2023, like we talked about, I believe, 4th in MVP voting in that year, Pro Bowl starter. And in my opinion, his PFF grades, he was the 4th best quarterback in 2023. And then we look at 2024, right? There was a regression. We look at 14th overall, 4th in rushing, 19th as a passer overall, ranked as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And what do you think the Niners ignored or were encouraged by this season that got Brock this deal? What did they see this year that made them say, you know what? It was a mulligan.
Well, I think that they like his competitiveness. They've spoken to that a lot.
Mhm.
That even though he can make some bad decisions, throwing the ball into double, triple coverage for a pick when forcing a play when he's rushed out of the pocket, but they do like his competitiveness. They like that he wants to continue to get better. They want to see that. And I think they're believing that Brock is still progressing to what he can become. He hasn't already tapped out.
Mhm.
And this is going to be a prove it year for him is that, okay, Brock, you've been paid. We've shown our faith and trust in you. It's time for you to step up and deliver, which means we want to see you compete and compete with excellence in bad weather games. We want to see those interceptions go way down. We want to see you playing with more intelligence, poise, leadership, and we're expecting that, and that's why we've made this investment. And I think they'll look at 23 and they'll look at the playoff record and say, Brock, when he's on, can deliver for us and help us get there, provided there's enough talent around him. But in 2024, he regressed and he didn't improve his game in any fashion, really. He dropped in a lot of stuff. But the
Mhm.
main thing that I was concerned with was his decision making, where, especially in bad weather, he put the ball up for grabs and he cost them games. And so what I want to see is now, okay, now the accountability falls to Brock. We've paid you, we believe in you. Now it's time for you to step up. And I think that's their expectation going into this year.
Yeah. Um, he got paid like a quarterback that has more playoff wins than Tua, Goff, Hurts, Lamar, and Herbert.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes. Also, I like the fact that they didn't. I'll say it again. They didn't reset the market. There was for me. I just when I started hearing about 55 and up, we're starting to look at like, all right, bro, we're mortgaging our future. So let's get into that. Do you believe that the Niners have hurt themselves with being able to put pieces around Brock? Right. We know that Trent is on his way out. We've got to repay Fred. We just got in 2 strong rookie classes behind us. Nick is always going to be paid. Demo just got his money. There's a whole situation where we have to practically get a whole new offensive line next. Sans, Dominic. What have we done with this deal to be able to set ourselves up to be able to set Brock up for success? Have we kind of spit the bit with paying him too much, or is there still room for us to be able to have a viable team?
At this point, that's tough for me to say. It's irrelevant because they're not willing to spend in free agency.
Mhm.
Until they are, what they pay Purdy doesn't matter because they're not willing to spend. If you pay Purdy 50, 60, if you're not
Mhm.
going to spend in free agency, what you give Brock doesn't matter. So that's the first point. The second is once they do spend in free agency, then it's an issue. And so it becomes more urgent for them. If they decide over the next offseason, we need to put some money down in free agency, this is kind of their final shot before Brock starts to really hit big numbers 2 years down the
Mhm.
line. So if they want to spend in free agency, it's now or never, basically. If they don't, then pretty soon it locks them in. So we'll see what they do. But if they're not willing to spend in free agency again next year, what they've just paid Purdy doesn't matter. If they are willing to spend, then they have to do it next offseason.
What do you think the first 3 years, what direction should the organization be going in the first 3 years of paying Brock this money? Right? Obviously, if we break it down, it's a 3-year deal. We don't know the particulars yet, but customarily after the 3 years, with them front loading the 161 or the 160, is it 161 or 160?
165.
165. Thank you. With front loading the 165 in the first 3 years, customarily there is an out, right? Now, you said that artfully with marrying the 3 years with the tenure of John and Kyle, so they can have themselves an option to just move on wholesale, right?
Yeah.
Within that time, are the Niners really going to be in their Super Bowl window, or in the first 3 years, are they just licking their wounds? What are we doing? Are we rebuilding our depth? Is this quest for 6? Are we pushing to go get a Super Bowl? What are we doing in these 3 years while Brock Purdy is making $55 million?
We're not going to have an answer to that until we know what they're going to do in free agency next year in terms of spending and what commitment they're going to make to the offensive line in next year's draft.
Right.
Given that Colton McKivitz is going to be a free agent, and given that Trent is iffy in terms of if he keeps going, he's only got 1 year left. Next year, they're going to have to face picking offensive linemen. They're going to have to throw Kyle into a broom closet during the draft and take offensive linemen probably in the first 3 rounds. It's that dire. And if they do that, I believe that they can then recover and contend. If they don't, then they're playing out the string. So we'll see how they do. But everything is going to be dictated by their actions. What is your direction for this team? How much are you willing to spend? And how are you willing to spend those assets? So I'm looking at the draft in terms of offensive line, and I'm looking at free agency next offseason and seeing what's going on.
We've now gone into this is Brock Purdy's team, right? Brock Purdy's making $55 million a year. Is there a world where the Niners, not even the Niners, but Kyle and the regime, right? The coaching staff, is there a world where Brock is making $55 million a year and we're still asking Kyle to let Brock have full autonomy over the offense? Does this deal signify anything in real time, right? We know that Brock is the leader, right? But just because you make $55 million a year now or 52 AAV, you just can't come in the locker room and just start, having a voice that you usually never had, right?
Yeah, you have to be authentic to who you already are.
What differences do you plan on seeing right away because of this deal on the football field? Do you believe that there's going to be more of a buy-in with Brock and Kyle? They have more of a concrete syntax between the two of like, hey, you got your deal. We're linked in. We're lockstep, kid. If I go, you go. So here goes everything. Okay, so I got a scenario for you. I ran a physical security business, okay? And at the time, I had to transition out of it to move on to another career. I had some guys under me that were with me for a long time. But I knew that the only way for me to really transfer power was for me to teach them what I knew, right? Like, you got to give them the sauce. You can't it can't be this employee boss relationship. There's got to be some point where if you really want them to take over what you're doing, you have to give them not only the applied science to what you need them to do, but you need to give them the methodology that you use to be able to get this done. All of the mechanisms that you have. That's how I see Kyle and Brock really becoming. I think that is something that could be birthed out of this deal. What do you think about that? Is that wishful thinking?
Yes.
I said I gave you an out.
I appreciate that.
The shit, yes, it ain't checkers.
Everything that you said is absolutely correct. You enable your employees to go forward.
Yes.
You give them the runway so that they can then ramp up and fly.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, is he willing to do that? No. Kyle is a control freak. Is Kyle going to allow Brock to audible to any play on the line of scrimmage? No. Kyle's going to give him 2-3 options and say, you pick one, and that'll be it. Kyle is going to maintain control because Kyle will never learn that lesson of true leadership is enabling your people, not controlling them. I'm in full agreement with you. I've had all kinds of success doing precisely that with employees and a lot of gratitude in seeing them take off and fly and do wonderful things.
They don't just want the money, Tom.
No,
that's what I learned.
They're invested in their success.
When you give an employee a raise, they're expecting more responsibility.
Yeah.
And not only are they respecting more responsibility, they're expecting, let's just say what it is, more power.
Yeah.
Like, if I get paid more money, I want this money to be represented in my workflow, in how I'm respected around here, right? I earned this money, but not only this money signifies status. So could we see friction where we know, listen, we've seen 3 years of Brock. There's an element to his game where he wants to take over the game. He just needs to cook. He wants to cook.
Yeah.
He wants to be able to break off script, get into the minutia of what's happening contemporaneously in the flow, right? That doesn't really lend to a Kyle Shanahan offense.
No.
Could we see friction down the line, right? Where Brock's making $55 million a year, and, you know, we could get a patented Jimmy Garoppolo moment. Your plays suck, man. Like, you know, that's
I don't know if we'll see that from Brock, but we'll get the Brock equivalent of that, perhaps.
right.
But to your point, if they don't succeed on the field, I think that Brock can then push and say, we need to adjust. And one of the ways that we need to adjust is for me to be able to have more control in the line.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just give me 3 plays in the huddle and then I pick one of those 3. There has to be more autonomy from me.
Mm-hmm.
And you also need to say, is it better to have Brock calling the line assignments as opposed to the center?
Right.
Is that a possibility? Kyle needs to be open to the options, but Kyle hasn't shown us any reason to believe that'll change.
I believe that this will change.
I hope so.
Money.
I think it helps them if they do.
Money makes the world go round, Tom. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Kyle is still going to say it's my kingdom.
Tom, hear me. Just walk with me. Walk
okay.
with me.
Sorry.
All right. So I get that, right? And that's what we know.
Yeah.
All right. This is my thing. With Brock making that type of money, it doesn't even look good for Kyle. You can't be that overbearing, right? When you have a quarterback making that type of. There is an ownership to the offense that is going to have to be lended to Brock where, forget us, forget the fans, forget us. The team is going to have to see this buy-in, right? There's a switch where I've been on teams, coached and played on, where if there's a new sheriff in town, right? If we get a new quarterback, things kind of change to what he likes because he's the guy. You know what I'm saying?
He's a point of gravity, and so it changes the culture accordingly. And that should happen with the Niners, but we're talking Kyle Shanahan. It's just I'm so jaded on Kyle. Is he capable of that? And if not, is the locker room capable of putting pressure on Kyle to say, we need to see what can happen here? Because you can look at it from Brock's perspective at Iowa State and say, he had autonomy there and he made that work. And so this is part of his skill set. You want to optimize everything Brock Purdy does well. One of the ways you can do that is to give him more autonomy. Will Kyle do that? I'll believe it when I see it.
One more question for you, because we're going to get into some schedule stuff too. One more question for you. Well, is this contract bigger than Brock Purdy? Or is Brock Purdy bigger than this contract from a fan standpoint?
The contract's bigger than Purdy from a fan perspective because they don't think he's earned it, in my opinion. Okay. So they'll say that you basically got this money because of the marketplace and because the Niners had to make sure they locked down their quarterback before OTAs. We haven't seen you earn it specific to last year. And so it's going to be incumbent upon Brock to earn that goodwill through great play and elevating his game. Hopefully he can do that. But in terms of Kyle giving more, my hope is that as Brock succeeds, Kyle will be willing to give a little bit. Mm-hmm. But Kyle, by his nature, is a control freak. I don't think he'll ever just hand the car keys to his quarterback on his offense of a team that Kyle Shanahan runs. It's not in him.
So so flat out, do you think he earned this contract?
No. I think that he partially earned it in 2023.
Okay.
But in 2024, he regressed, and
All
that
right.
should be reflected in the money. But you still look at this and say that it's still a decent deal for the Niners because it's not Dak money. It's not over 60, and it has that out after the third season. So from the Niner perspective, plus the 181 million guaranteed, there are elements in it that the Niners point to and say, this is why we made the deal. And Brock can point to the AAV and say, yeah, this is what I earned. This is where I am in the marketplace. So
All right.
it's a balance. It's a balance between the two. But I think that Brock can earn more fan goodwill if he improves upon the things that were issues last year.
Do you think so all right, you can't wash it. Who came out on top in this deal? Did the Niners, was this a team friendly deal or did Brock get too much? Now you already came out and said that you believe that Brock didn't earn this deal. So in a way, you're kind of leaning toward Brock got more from the Niners than he shouldn't have gotten. But in
Yeah,
the
but
overall,
the market dictates to a large extent.
true.
So I don't
But
necessarily
overall,
point
was
to
this
one
team
guy or
friendly?
another as a winner. I think that overall it's a win for the Niners because they got the transition out. That to me, that was the most important element in this. I want to make sure that the Niners have a way to exit. And
Mhm.
this deal does that. And so 3 years into that deal, they can move on from Kyle, John, and Brock. To me, that's the most important element. In terms of what he's paid, it depends on what the Niners are willing to do in free agency. That's going to dictate if this contract hurts them or doesn't.
Yeah. I believe that I think it was a team friendly deal.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it now, do it while the cement is wet. Get him the front load the deal, pay him right now while you're trying to build. Right
Yeah.
now, the biggest thing that the Niners need now, this is something that you've been bringing up throughout the show, but the Niners are in no business to be looking at free agency right now. We're not near a window. We're
No.
we're not there. So why would we need free agency in let's say in the foreseeable future? I don't see any like right now for the Niners, and let's just say hypothetically, the Niners are in striking distance mid-season. Let's say who do we got by week 10? We got the Rams by week 10. Going into week 10, we got the Rams, and let's say we're 7-3. Going into week 10, the trade deadline's about to hit, and the Niners are a player away. Let's say we need an offensive lineman. I still say we don't go get that offensive lineman. Let's say we need a receiver. I say we still don't go get that guy because we still have to develop 2 years of draft classes to build our depth. We
Yeah.
systematically bled our depth, and that takes time to build. All right. It took 2 years to build the depth for us to have the team we had in 2019, and we still built upon that year after year after year. That's how the depth is built. It's happening right in front of you. It doesn't just happen in an offseason. So for me, pay them now while we're getting the players in here. Have another strong draft this year. All right. Don't the biggest thing that could kill the Brock deal right now is us putting players around him that we didn't draft.
Yeah.
Everything that needs to be put
Yeah.
around Brock needs to be youth, it needs to be drafted, it needs to be developmental. And that's going to lighten the pocket on that deal as time goes on. It's going to look a
Agreed.
little bit more favorable. What say
Right.
you?
What they need to do is plant seeds, not buy trees.
Mm,
And so to
that was
do
a
that,
bar, Tom. The fuck? Shit was
so
hard.
so given that, yes,
Mhm,
they have to draft and draft well.
mhm,
To your point, what they need to do is play these guys because this is your foundation. This is your future core. The way that they're going to develop is reps. You have to give them time. So don't sign band-aids at the deadline. That's not going to help you.
mhm,
You need to say who is out there that's going to get things done and who's going to be part of this team going forward.
mhm,
And therefore, seeds, plant, draft picks. Don't don't spend the band-aids. It's not going to help you because
mhm,
all you're doing is buying a year, but you're regressing in terms of the progression of your future core.
mhm.
That's your future. That's your team. If this team is going to succeed, if they're going to get back to a Super Bowl, it has to be this core growing into what they can become.
Seeds over trees, dog. That is the bar of the season. Seeds over trees. Hey, Tom, that was fire, dog.
Thanks, Coach.
That was fire. I know you don't know about battle rap URL. You got a future ahead of you, man. We can get some things together. Get a 16. Tom, we can get you together, man. Get a good flyer out there, because that was fire. Let's get to some super chats. Tom out here in fighting form. Dan Yao, $5. Thank you. Pronounce Dan Ayel, Coach. Thank you. Make sure you tell Jesse, Dan Ayel. I will. Dan Ayel, because I used to butcher this one. Dan Ayel, yo, that intro was crazy. Last time, only the initiated know. If you know, you know. I'm broke, baby. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no money. Money making Mitch. Dan Ayel, the quote, to quote Yoda, when he felt the paradigm shift, the shroud of the dark cloud has fallen. This franchise is cooked now. Are we cooked, Tom?
No.
I don't think we're cooked, bro. I think that's too much. Don't listen.
That's taking it too far.
The new 52, you know what I'm saying, is the old 49. It's inflation, baby. You got to move with the times. Brock's getting paid 52. Right now, it's nowhere near top 5. Okay. He's over Tua. I like the deal. And to be honest, there's two things that I love about this deal. Can I be petty real quick? I need to be petty.
Do it.
There's two things. Two things that I love about this deal. I'm gonna be petty real quick. He's got more money than Tua, because I think he's better than Tua. And he's getting more money than Jalen Hurts, and I think he's better than Jalen Hurts. I love it. Those are my two petty things. But I know you think
I agree with that there are ways of limiting Jalen Hurts, and the Niners proved that you could do that.
Yes.
You force him wide and you force him to throw to one sideline, you can shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
Niners did that.
And $2, you're killing us right now. Had to pay that child support, but I'm here. Yo, you're wild. Sean, who again got me together with his name. Sean, 49ers building the team for cheap the next 3 years. And if they build a contender in 2 years, he is underpaid in 2027 and locked in. They will draft his replacement within 2 years, and the window is open for 5 years. I like this. They paid Brock. They understood that they future-proofed the deal for the first 3 years with an out. What he's getting paid isn't breaking the bank. He's relatively paid the quarterbacks that he has not only has he had better seasons than, but he has a better playoff resume in and has a higher ceiling than. Does Brock Purdy have a higher ceiling than Tua Tagovailoa? Answer that question.
Yes.
Yes.
He's a better player. Period.
Full stop. That's the market.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we got the money, because the money crystallizes things, right? The picture is a lot clearer now. If there's anybody who has a problem with the deal, just ask, is Brock Purdy better than Tua Tagovailoa? Yes. Does Brock Purdy have a bigger ceiling than Tua Tagovailoa? Yes. Then what are we doing? It's the market.
Yeah. Right. Agreed entirely.
Ricky Williams, $4.99. Thank you, brother. Basically 4 years to win a Super Bowl, or Carl and John, or can. Fellas, they can actually do it. No, fellas, can they actually do it? If they pull this off, put it in the books. I don't think they can pull it off.
No, I don't. It's my issue throughout, from when we first began doing this, is you have to replace Kyle as GM or you don't win a ring, period.
Right.
But what we'll see is, okay, they've kicked the can forever. Now you have the draft where it has to be the offensive line version of the 81 draft. You have to load up on a position group.
Mm-hmm.
If they do that, they got a chance. If they draft well, identify the right people and go. If they don't, then they're doing what we expect of Kyle and what we expect of the team. And I think that if they take that path, that we'll be seeing the exit of Shanahan, Lynch, and Purdy after the 2028 season.
All right, let's close out this topic for once and for all. Number one, I'm glad that it finally happened. Two, we dodged the drama. Three, we're taking our lumps now, front loading the contract to be able to get out of it with a possible out at 3. 4, we're still able to build with the draft classes that we have. Free agency will be a problem with this money being paid, but the Niners have depth issues. Free agency is the last thing we need to be looking at right now. And 5, Niners can also, along this way, get a replacement and get a predecessor for Brock along the way. And by year 5, he could be. So, look, I know a lot of people thought that I was going to rant and rave about this one. They were waiting, Tom. They were waiting.
Yeah, they were poised.
They were poised for Coach to go off, but you're not going to get me. I see the methodology. I get this one. I understand the money. It's synced with the market, our future plans, and where we are now. What else can you say?
It doesn't derail anything that they would need to do going forward, and that's the important element in this.
Mm-hmm. So listen, let's get into a little bit of the schedule. All right. Division Truth Serum. All right. Let's get into it. I know that you've had a time to look over the schedule. I don't want to throw you off. 3 NFC West matchups in the first 4 weeks: Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams. This isn't just a fast start. It's a chance to take early control of the division or fall right back into the dogfight. By the end of week 4 or week 5, because that's when we have the Rams on week 5, by the end of week 5, we may already know if the 49ers are contenders or chasing from behind. What do you think the 49ers are going to look like within that first 4 to 5 weeks of the season?
My first concern is safety. You don't have Malik Mustafa.
Okay.
You're going to have to pay or play who? Pinnock, Jair. Those guys will be targets for the opposing offenses. That's my first concern. Everybody brings up all the rookie starters on defense. I'm looking at safety. What's going to happen while Mustafa's out? That's number 1. Number 2 is let's see what the offense can do, given that they don't really know what's going to happen at wide receiver going into the year. They have to settle on the offensive line and then build continuity. So I'm a little bit worried about how they come out of the gate. I think that that's going to be a problem for them because they don't have everything settled. It helps to have Purdy signed, and it shows that they learned from last year, and they know that there's 3 division games right away, and there's an easy opportunity for them to take control of the division early.
Mm-hmm.
But can they get there when safety is a giant target and the offense is not necessarily firing on all cylinders to start the year?
Well, what do you think about the health of us within the first 5 weeks? Seattle, first of all, shame on me. What do you have us going this year? What is your overall prediction for the Niners?
10-7, and they get the last wild card.
Oh, so you got us making the playoffs?
Yeah, barely.
I got us going 9-8.
Okay.
All right.
There's a lot of games that I have identified as 50-50.
Right.
And how they do in those 50-50 games defines the season. A lot of those are the division games, especially against Seattle and Arizona. How they do in those games is going to determine whether they make the playoffs or not.
So you want to do a little bit of a rundown on what you believe the schedule is?
Let's go game by game if we can, if you got that.
All right, yeah, let's go. Let's go. So you know what? Now is my time to geek out and let you guys know about my Excel skills. I built a schedule grid for the NFL that I saw on Twitter, and I mimicked that shit, and I did it. Okay. So I'm going to put out my grid so we can look at exactly where the Niners stand. So right here, let's go, Tom. Me and you. So look, this is the grid that we got right now. The schedule grid. David Lombardi, eat your heart out. Okay. Yeah. You ain't the only one.
Yeah.
So look.
Steroid spreadsheet.
Hey, dog, you know what I'm saying? I'm special. All right. So let's see what we got right here, man. We got the Niners. Right here, and we see their schedule. Where do you have us going right now? As far as Seattle, what do you have that as? A win or a loss?
I think Seattle's a loss because the Niners are going to get picked at safety. Darnold can beat them that way. And
Mhm.
I think Mike McDonald is getting better at building his defense to stop the Niners. When McDonald was the DC in Baltimore, they had 4 picks against the Niners. That's what McDonald is building toward. Can he do
Mhm.
that with the Seahawks as they're currently built? Maybe not, but I just don't think the Niners are going to be able to hit the ground running on offense and defense, given all the rookies and given the uncertainty.
All right, so you have Seattle as a loss.
Yeah.
All right, so
But
let's get it.
that's one of the 50-50 games.
Okay, so you have Seattle as a loss, but it's a 50-50 game. What do you have New Orleans?
That's a win. They're the worst team in the league.
Okay, so you got New Orleans as a win. All right, what do you have for Arizona?
I have them winning, but I think it's going to depend on where is the development of Michael Williams at this point.
Mhm.
If he can be great at setting the edge and shutting down Kyler, Niners win. If not, Arizona does. But I have the Niners winning. I believe in Michael. I think that he can be a difference maker in this game specifically.
All right, so Arizona win by way of Michael Williams. Jacksonville, what you got for us?
That's a win. I don't think that Jacksonville is going to get everything together yet under Liam Cohn. It's going to
All
take
right,
him longer.
yeah, me too. I think Jacksonville, they're going to struggle. Rams,
Loss.
lost, bro.
Yeah. Because I
You
look
you ain't even
what
try.
my
That's a
concerns
loss.
about safety, it's just is Mustafa back by then? Are they gelling then? Do they have a good second safety to play with him? Is Siegel ready yet? Is Jair playing better than he did last year? It's just safety is my biggest concern on the team positionally.
Mine too. All right, man. I mean, it's the thinnest position that we have right now. It's very bad.
Yeah.
And there's reports that Malik Mustafa may be back sooner than people anticipate him to be. Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard that, but let's see it. And let's see what he is when he's on the field. Players can always say, "Well, I'm ready to go," and then the medical staff checks him out and says not yet, or he plays and then he gets re-injured. It's just they need to be careful with him because I think that if they lose Mustafa again, that could really set them back.
Yeah. I'm hearing that the injury is from the actual graft of the previously injured ACL. So
Yeah,
so it's not only the ACL, but it's the graft that actually was injured as well. Albeit a freak accident. I believe that he what did he get stepped on?
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. But I don't know, man. That's it's
that's a
concerning.
problem. It's just so if they do something, there are still safeties out there. You've still got Blackman, you've still got Simmons who are available that they could sign in free agency. I think they're going to need to take a look in OTAs and in camp and see how the safeties play
Mhm,
and look if they need to sign somebody at safety just to fill that hole.
mhm. Moving on into Tampa Bay, this week 6. What do you got for us, Tom?
I think they win that because they basically have a bye. It's 10 days off and then go. Um,
You got us getting Tampa Bay out the way
yeah,
back to back years.
I think we can take care of Tampa. The Bucks last year they were missing a lot of people, so they'll be a better
Mike
team.
Evans
But
didn't play in this game, nor did Chris Godwin.
yeah, but I still think the Niners are a better team than Tampa by that time.
Okay, let's get into
But
18.
again, a lot's going to depend on safety for me.
Yeah, duly noted. What do you got for me for ATL Atlanta?
I think they beat Atlanta. The problem for Atlanta is that they'll be going across the country. I believe in Penix. I saw him play every game at UW in his final season in Seattle. So I think that he can be a great player, but I don't think he's got the weapons yet. He's got Bijan, but he doesn't have enough else.
Okay, then we got another barn burner over here. We go to Houston. What do you think? Going us going to go CJ Stroud and that suspect offensive line.
It is, though it's improved from last year. We'll just have to see how they deal with that. My concern with the Houston game is it's an early body clock game. It's 10 a.m. start.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be a problem for the Niners. So I think CJ Stroud gets it done. He gets past his sophomore slump.
That's a loss for
And the
the Niners.
Texans take care of him because early body clock, the Niners don't do well in those games.
Mm. All right, coming from Houston, go home, or we possibly could go straight to New York. We see the New York Giants. What say you on this one?
New York's terrible. I think that they'll be fine.
Automatic.
You have to worry about their defensive line in terms of their edge play is going to be incredible.
They got dogs up front.
Right. So Kyle is going to have to adjust to a short passing game to beat the rush and just not give them time to get to Brock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Kyle's fully capable of doing that, and they'll win.
Okay. Do we get swept by the Rams? We have the Rams in week 10.
Yeah, here's the problem. Long flight to Houston on an early body clock game. Longer flight to New York. Back-to-back long flights is going to take a lot out of them. And New York, that's one of the worst surfaces of the league. I'm worried about injuries in New York in week 9. And then you turn around and you play the Rams. I'm worried that they're going to be pretty beaten down by the time they get to week 10 because of that back-to-back long flights.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
Go to see Arizona. Do we sweep Arizona? So we get swept by the Rams. Do we sweep the Cardinals?
It depends on who's healthy. If the injuries are the problem that I think they would be, then I think that they're going to struggle, because if they don't have Trent, if they don't have CMC, Brock without his Band-Aids, Brock without his security blanket, it's going to be a problem. So I think that Arizona can win that game, and that's another one of those 50-50s. But it'll depend. It's going to be about health. What's their offensive health for the offensive starters going into week 11?
You've got us at 6-5 coming out of week 11.
Yeah.
Neck and neck. We're going into Carolina. This is Monday Night Football at home. We got to see Bryce Young, Ted McMillan, and Xavier Legette, and that hellified defense in Carolina, revamped in some ways. What do you think?
I don't think Carolina's ready for prime time, and you've got a young team that's going to be flying across the country to play the Niners at Levi's on the West Coast. I think that's a problem for a young team.
That's one of my big games, man. We got another topic, but I'm interested in that. Okay, so that's a win.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. All right. Then after Monday Night Football, we go out and see our arch nemesis. Now, Cleveland has been a thorn in our side for a long time. No matter how good we are, Cleveland always seems to be pesky. They play us nasty.
And how bad they are, and they
don't care.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What do we do at Cleveland?
Lose.
What?
Because that's what Kyle does. Jim Schwartz against Kyle.
Jim
9-1. That's the problem. Plus, you're probably looking at bad weather, and you're probably looking at an ice field in Cleveland. So the injuries are again a problem in that game.
Rocking those hands.
No, I look at all this and say that, on paper, the Niners should wipe the floor with Cleveland. They're not good. But Schwartz has Kyle's number. He always has. And so if Cleveland gets turnovers, that's where they can win. I trust Schwartz more than Kyle is what it comes down to. Is I think Schwartz wins that game. It's not about the players. It's about the strategy.
What's wild is that not only does he trust it, but he knows it. Don't you? Yeah. He has an air of confidence when he plays against us. The communication. One thing I've noticed about Jim Schwartz teams that play against us, they communicate their asses off, man. They are talking all of the shifts, the pre-snap motion. They're shifting, making sure that they don't get out leveraged. Everybody's moving with. It's just like they're literally calling his plays for him. It's interesting to see. Week 14, we have a later bye. I believe that's what is this? We have the latest bye.
It's the latest possible bye the NFL gives.
Yeah, we have the latest possible bye in the NFL. I believe byes start in week 5 to week 14. Niners don't get a bye until literally they have to give us one. The only team that's going to get a bye in that week is Buffalo. So let's get into week 15. We see Tennessee. We have to go out there and see Cam Ward. I have the note right here. As you see, this is a big game. I have 5 games that I have tallied as big games. But Tennessee.
Well, let's go through the schedule and then let's get to those 5.
Yeah, we're going to get to those.
Okay, cool.
Tennessee, what do you think?
Niners win that one.
Niners
Tennessee
win.
isn't ready. Yeah, it's just they're too young.
Mm-hmm. All right. At Indy,
Same thing. Yeah,
not ready yet.
unless Shane Steichen can somehow get his quarterback up to speed. I don't like the quarterback situation in Indy. I don't think that he can repair that. I think that they need to have an early draft pick and take a quarterback in the first next year.
Did you hear the latest reports about Richardson?
No,
He looks
what's the story?
jacked. You saw the latest
Okay.
pictures of him?
Well,
They're
yeah.
trying
Well,
to say, I mean, I'm
but
not
that's
saying
who
that,
he is.
looking
He's
jacked throws a
by
good ball.
nature.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that, but
Right.
they're saying that this kid, like, he really looks good. That's the reports.
Okay.
That's all. That's just the reports. That's what they're saying.
Okay. Well, if he comes through, then Indy's a different team. And you look at Shane Steichen and you say, this is the guy that developed Jalen Hurts and got Philly to where they did. And he got them to a Super Bowl. So can he do that with Richardson? If he can, then the Colts are a completely different team.
Mhm.
But I'm not expecting it. I don't think Indy is there yet.
My man, take me to Chi-Town, Windy City. Chi-Town comes to us.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think Ben Johnson gets the win. He's got the offensive line that he needs. He's got the weapons that he needs, and he's got the quarterback that he trusts, and he's got a pretty good defense.
Can
I
you
think
trust
that-
Caleb Williams?
Well, I think you can behind that offensive line. I think that that offensive line basically does for Caleb what the Detroit line did for Goff.
All right, man. I just listen. My thing about Caleb Williams is that I just like to see the consistency. I feel as though that Caleb has had a lot of things afforded to him, especially in college. And
No doubt.
When you get an offensive line like that, you have to be responsible to your support. And I think that Caleb Williams not getting the ball out, holding onto the ball, scrambling, not staying on time, missing reads. I would like to see it. He's a talented player.
Yeah.
He's from my neck of the woods, bro. He's from DC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Gonzaga Catholic High School. Look, listen, he's from my neck of the woods. I've been watching him since he was at Gonzaga. But
and your neck of the woods produces some of the best players in the country.
I mean, I ain't gonna argue with you,
including Caleb. But I agree with you that basically this is a prove-it year for him. But you've got no excuses. You've got the best offensive coordinator in the game, arguably. You've got a great offensive line. You've got the weapons you need. There's no excuse not to succeed. But they're going to have to coach him out of bad habits. Caleb's got a lot of them.
I love the way you said that. See, listen, like, Tom, is there a way that I don't have to live another 30 years so I could just have your wisdom now? And I could have just said that
Thanks,
instead of
Coach.
you know what I mean? Like, instead of me just saying, all of the stuff that I said, it's just like, hey, man, we just got to make sure that he takes care of himself. Caleb's got to be able to just take the next step. There's some people that are saying Caleb is overrated. I don't think so. I just believe that he's a little too cool for school. He understood the process at a very high level, very early in his career. And usually when you get players like that, where they get it that quickly, it's not necessarily getting them to understand the game, but it's getting them to respect it. That's a
and to
completely
respect
different
his
side.
teammates and his coaching.
Right.
That you can't make bad decisions. But my hope for Caleb is that you've got Ben Johnson. Trust the guy. And I think that Caleb will, given the pedigree. This is one of the top offensive minds in the league. You'd be crazy to go your own way and just be your own drummer when Ben Johnson's your head coach and OC. Don't. And he's got everything. It's just, this is basically a case of maturity. Caleb has to understand, if I play my role correctly, if I become more professional in my approach, if I'm accountable to my teammates and my coaching staff, this team can go places. And he needs to recognize that. It's a moment of maturity for him. And it's do or die.
All I'm saying is that I know that there's a faction of the Bears. I don't know what they're called over there. The Cubs, the Cubbies, whatever. The Bears fan base, where half of them are split on the Colston Leveling pick. half of them wanted Mikael Williams, where they're saying, this kid better be everything that you said he was because they've got pass rushing issues themselves. So,
Oh, sure, that's true. But Colston Loveland, I think a lot of people slept on him. I think that you and I, when we talked about this in the draft, that this was Johnson saying, I need speed at tight end. I need a playmaker. And I think that Loveland is every bit as good, if not better, than Tyler Warren, especially for what Ben Johnson needs from his tight end. They added more speed. They added a playmaker. They added a younger guy. I think that they can get that done. But we'll see. This whole season for Chicago, and especially Caleb and Ben, prove it.
Close us out for the season, Tom. Seattle, last game of the season. What do you got for us? Do we get swept?
I have the Niners winning that game because that's their chance to make the playoffs. And I think that by that time, they will have figured things out in terms of how to deal with the offense and whatever injuries they've had. The defense will be at its best point in the year, arguably. So I think that they can close the season well, and that they'll be playing at home for a home playoff game, or for at least for a playoff game. And we'll see if they can get that done. But I believe in them, and that's how I have them going to the playoffs, is they win that game. They have to. If they lose that game, I don't see them making the playoffs.
Now, moving into our next topic, we might as well take this off the we're closing out with the last topic of the show. So, trap games that are most important to the Niners. 5 important must-have games that I have selected throughout the season are what I want to go through, and I also would like you to choose 3 to 5 of those games, or let me know if you agree with my assertion of the 5 games. Okay. Now, I believe that if the Niners go 3-2 in these games, they have the ability to possibly make the wild card spot to go to the playoffs. But if they don't win if they have a losing record within this 5-game slot, they're cooked. All right, we're cooked.
Okay.
So number 1 is the first game of the season, Seattle.
Yeah.
I think that is a huge game. Okay,
big, very big
divisional game. All right, on the road, we've got to be able to set dominance, and it puts us 1-0 against the Seattle Seahawks, and essentially first in the division after week 1. That's huge. All right. Now, second game for me is the first Rams game. All right. We're going to be in the 5th week. We're going to be in the 5th week of the season. All right. We should be just finding our footing. This essentially is our first Super Bowl. In my opinion, if we beat the Rams in week 5, we can afford to get clipped by them in week 10. All right.
Yeah.
We got to handle our business.
Buys us grace. Right.
Yes, it buys us grace. But we got to handle our business first. I don't know what we got to do to win this game. Okay. We'll understand what our strengths and weaknesses are for sure by then. But the way I see the outset is the Rams game. All right. Now,
I agree completely with that. I think that game defines the season.
Okay. Now, because I know that we have a tough split because we're about to see the Rams in week 10 and we have Arizona coming up. We have 2 divisional games back to back in week 10, week 11. For me, I believe that the Houston Texans is a big game for us. I think
it is, but I'm worried about that game because the body clock thing. I think that CJ Stroud is not as bad as he looked last year. Their offensive line, while bad and not necessarily where it needs to be, is still going to be better. I'm worried about the Texans, but I agree with you that that's a game where they have to really pay attention of saying that, okay, we need to have our complete focus on this one.
Yes.
If we come in and we just roll out of the plane because it's too early, and we roll out in the field because it's 10 a.m. for our body clock, we'll lose.
Also, one reason why I want to beat the Texans, because I think that it'll take over and roll right into beating the Giants and just making it a formality. All right.
They should do that regardless. The Giants just don't have enough time.
We should do everything regardless, man. But we're talking about, you know what I mean? Like,
you're right, Coach. Absolutely right. Absolutely.
So my what is this? My 4th game, my 4th must-win game is Carolina. I think that Carolina has the ability to take over their division. I don't believe in the NFC South. I think that New Orleans is trash.
Bad. Yeah.
Atlanta is Atlanta, okay? And Tampa Bay, they're still trying to get things together, but I believe that their success is cyclical. You know, like it's not necessarily, they're not perennially good. I think that if Carolina in the NFC South could really be making noise, and a win off of Carolina would be huge coming into what I believe would be a loss to Cleveland. I've already said we're losing to Cleveland. Okay. But we can't lose to Carolina and then lose to Cleveland. That kills us going into our bye. We can't have a 2-skid loss going into our bye. It's huge.
Right.
All right. So
the key factor in both of those games is health.
Yeah. Lastly, the last must-win game for me. You might think it's the Seattle game in the last game of the season, or maybe even Chicago. It's the Tennessee game. For me, that's a must-win game because we're coming off a bye. All right? We're coming off rest, and we need to be hitting the ground running because really it's not the Tennessee game that we need, but it's that Chicago game and that Seattle game. All right? Going into the end of the season. We got to come out with some newfound rejuvenation, and losing after a bye sucks. All right?
Yeah.
On top of the fact that
you stumble out of the gate like that, it sets up failure going forward.
Right. And for me, I believe that coming out of the bye, the last 4 games is going to be a little bit of a mini season for us trying to get to the playoffs, right? Splitting up these 2 games between our last 2 AFC South and our NFC North and NFC West opponents. I think that this last 4 games is going to be what everybody's paying attention to. We're going to be knocked around in the season, right? I believe that we may get swept by the Rams. All right.
Yeah.
I think that Tampa Bay is going to be a good win. That was our best win last season. That was our only playoff team that we beat last year. So I think that coming into the end of the season, those last 4 games, coming out of a bye, Tennessee's a must-win game. It just speaks to the confidence of what we're going to do for the rest of the game. What do you think, Tom?
It is, but I'm not worried about Tennessee because I look at that roster and just say, I don't care if Cam Ward is just lights out. They're not going to win that game. Niners are going to win that. Tennessee just isn't good enough. So trap games for me, I agree with you completely on Seattle in the opener. That's critical. That sets a lot of things going in a positive direction if they can win that. Then the Rams game in week 5. I'm really worried about that game, particularly as it relates to the safeties. Then Tampa, I think that's going to be a key game. Just that this is a team that's better than what they saw last year, that is capable of playing a tight competitive game against us, and let's see what they can do. So to me, I think the must win is Tampa, because that's a team that you're also going to be competing against to get in the playoffs. So you need that win. Atlanta, same thing in terms of you need to beat them in order to erase them as a playoff team. But I don't think that's a key trap game. Then the next Rams game in week 10, how do they recover after flights to Houston and the Giants? How do they recover after playing on that bad surface in New York? What's the health of the team? That's the next one. The Cleveland game is critical. If they can win the Cleveland game, it sets up the season. If they lose the Cleveland game because of Schwartz and the weather, ouch. And the final one for me is Chicago. That if they can beat Chicago, that's a good test for them to say, we are now capable. I think Chicago's going to be a good team by then.
Talented team.
And if they beat Chicago, that's going to be a prove-it game for the Niners to believe in themselves going forward. So those are mine.
Hey, man. We have gone through what is about the most we can with the schedule thus far. I love where we're at right now. I think that, we got Brock signed.
Yeah.
We got our schedule. I say 9-8, you say 10-7. I believe, give or take a game or two, we're right there. We're neck and neck.
Yeah, we're in the same spot.
We're in the same wheelhouse. What do you guys have just in the chat? Where do you guys have us going this year? And let me ask you while they're answering, Tom, how viable is a playoff run this year? Give me an over under on what you think the Niners would do making the playoffs this year.
I don't think that they would win a game. I think they would go out in the playoffs in the first round. But it's still a good sign of saying that, okay, if we can go 10-7, if we can get to the playoffs, the Niners can then look at it and say, we're going in the right direction. It's something that they can build on going forward and say that we're starting to get some traction here. I think that's what they need. But if they lose those 50-50 games, they're in deep kimchi.
Yeah. It all comes down. Hey, took the words right out of my mouth. It all comes down to week one. I hate to say it, but grand opening, grand closing.
It's a big part of it. That and the Rams in 5. It's that coupling is going to be the key.
Yeah, it really is. It's the Rams that we'll know exactly what the season is going to be. Rams at 5, Seattle at 1. All right. Let's say we split Seattle or the Rams. Then the next test for us will probably be what? Tampa the very next week.
Yeah.
So there's going to be that. Look, I wish it's the best, but let's get some super chats out of the way. It's going to be interesting. So
absolutely.
Ricky Williams, we already got Ricky. Come on, Richard Bard. I know this guy. What happened to people wanting the golf deal? This is not that it's less. Golf signed $53 million per year against a $255 million cap. Purdy is signing the same against $279. Right. So I mean, I think we covered this. The deal with time, the deal is more favorable to us. I think the Niners set the deal up that way. I like the deal this way.
Yeah, you have to view the deal within the 5-year window, not just now.
Exactly. Gammy Brown, $2. Missed opportunity for $262 million instead. I understand. Aegis 999, thank you. Coach, I told you Brock would end his holdout in week 2 after Mac Jones threw 4 TDs against Seattle. I was wrong. Here's $10. My boy. Shout out to the best 49ers show only because I do it with you, Tom.
Oh, hey, give yourself some credit too, man. You are the best.
Dude, we finally got one in. We were dodging each other, man. I'm so glad that we were able to get back and get a show going. And it was kismet. Me and you talked this morning about getting a show together, and then out of nowhere, Brock signs the deal. We're able to talk about it, get some good commentary out about the season coming up in the schedule. Now we have mini camp. OTAs are coming up now. What's next on the off-season schedule?
Yeah, OTAs are late May. I think it's May 27th. Something like that.
We're going to be locked in. We're going to be talking more about the schedule. And now that Brock is paid.
Quickly, one thing, Coach.
Sure.
It was mentioned earlier that the Niners signed a kicker, and that kind of fell under the radar today. Guy's name is Greg Joseph, 8 years veteran kicker. His last time where he was a full-time kicker was Minnesota in 23. But here's the key with him, and here's where having a smart special teams coach pays off. He set the NFL record for game-winning kicks in 2022. He had 5 of them. So this is a guy that's proven to have nerves when it matters. That's a great kicker to bring in to say, okay, Moody, you've got the big leg, but you've got the yips. Here's a guy that makes it when it counts. Pay attention to Greg Joseph. I think this is an important signing.
My only thing with the kicker is that if you have 2, you don't have 1.
But then that's what camp is for.
Yeah, I understand. I just, why are you getting a 3rd round pick that you have to outsource one of the main reasons what you got him for? But I'm asking too many questions. It is what it is.
I agree. And why do I want Kyle gone? Stuff like that. Kyle as GM is the biggest problem. And here's one example of it. Jake Moody in the 3rd. Come on.
That's why you my dog, Tom. Tom, love you, man. We'll get going later on. I got a call-in show tomorrow so we can hear exactly from the faithful about how they feel about the deal. We've been doing way too much talking. It's time to hear back from the faithful. This Coach Tom Jensen. Stay low and keep your feet moving.
Talk
to you guys.